It is now 4:35 and time for the Murray City Municipal Council Committee of the Whole. All council members are present with the exception of Rosalba Dominguez, who has been excused. So we'll start with approval of minutes for the Committee of the Whole for May 18th, 2021. Are there any changes, questions, concerns? Okay, seeing none, I would take a motion.
I will move that we approve the minutes from May 18th.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll? Well, actually, we can just do,
All in favor?
we can just do all in favor. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Now, let's go to the discussion items, and the first one is a discussion on an ordinance amending sections 17.92.090, 17.96.090, 17.100.090, 17.104.090, 17.108.090, 17.112.090, 17.116.060, 17.120.060, 17.124.060, and 17.128.060 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to the height of residential zone accessory structures. Melinda Greenwood and Jared Hall. Welcome.
Share a screen real quickly. And that should be, if you can all see that. As we didn't list all of the sections of code that you cited there through, but that's basically all of the residential single-family zones, and the section and the sections in those different zones that deal with accessory structures. Accessory structures in a residential zone can be lots of different things: sheds, garages, etc. The applicant in this particular case for this text amendment is Brad Lambert. And I just want to quickly show you, those are, again, those zones that you rattled off the sections, particularly for A1, R16, right on through. And there are allowances for accessory structures in our multifamily zones as well, and those same rules need to be applied. So it does affect all of those different zones, the text amendment, the way it's proposed. And just to talk to you a little bit about what it really means. As I said, accessory structures can be like sheds, they can be garages. In the case of Mr. Lambert, it's a garage that he's constructing, but that led to this text amendment request. We had made some amendments previously as a city to our accessory structure rules, and we tried to sort of uncouple them from the height of the house a bit. We had these rules that didn't allow you to ever be higher than your house. The accessory structure had to be shorter than the house in all cases. We uncoupled that a little bit and came up with this language that's shown there as existing. An accessory structure may not exceed 16 feet to the peak of the roof if the primary residential dwelling is less than 20 feet in height. If the primary dwelling is greater than 20 feet in height, an accessory structure is allowed at a height of 20 feet to the peak of the roof. Mr. Lambert's proposed accessory structure amendment would just call it out as accessory structures being able to be a single story and not to exceed 20 feet in height. We measure all of our heights in our code to the peak of the roof, so there's no complicated, it's halfway up the eave or halfway up the slope of the roof. It's always to the highest point. So it represents a little bit of a change, but we feel like as a staff, it makes sense. It makes it simpler for people to know what they're allowed to do. We don't have to know the height of the house on the lot to be able to determine how high their structure can be, and we're supportive of it as a staff. We actually talked about doing it this way when we first made that change, decided to give this a shot. It has, uncoupling it somewhat and allowing this different standard has created some issues. We've had a lot of requests that fall just short of that. People need to get RVs garaged, they want to garage a boat, and maybe they need a little bit more height for the return on the door. 20 feet is a reasonable structure height, we feel like, and looking at a bunch of other cities, there are different heights allowed all over the map. Susan Nixon in her office did a lot of research on accessory structures throughout the valley. Some of the codes get really, really complex, but 20 feet is not an unreasonable height. You see that repeated many, many times, 16 to 20 feet, et cetera, et cetera. We do feel like, as a staff, it's a good idea. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on May 6th. There were no comments received, and they did vote 7-0 to recommend approval to you all as a council. And we do echo that recommendation as staff. So there were a few findings made, just those were in your written materials. But again, we feel like that's consistent with the purpose of the title, of Title 17, our land use ordinance. We do feel like it's consistent with the goals of the general plan, and the Planning Commission did also find that it will allow the citizens of Murray more flexibility in the reasonable use of their accessory structures. To that point, it doesn't modify anything else. We still have rules about how far that has to be from property lines. It doesn't affect any of those. It doesn't affect how large the structure can be in terms of footprint. You're still only allowed 25% of the rear yard for accessory structures altogether. And again, the Planning Commission last finding, they did vote 7-0 to recommend it. You have any questions for staff at this point?
Are there any questions for Jared?
I have one question.
Sure.
Would you already in a residential zone see houses of different heights, like 16 to 20 foot or higher?
That's a great question, and that's part of the reason that this was looked at previously, and we're looking at it again now. There's a great differential in heights in houses in Murray because of the different time periods in which they were all built and different neighborhoods were constructed. The newer houses are all going to be tall enough to allow 20-foot rear yard accessory structures. They're going to make that height. Homes for a certain period of time were often constructed with flat roofs, and they'll be maybe 14 or 15 feet high. And if somebody with one of those homes wants to construct a garage that will let them put their RV out of sight, they're not able to do it under our current rule. So this would create some instances where the rear yard accessory structure will be slightly taller than the house, but never more than 5-6 feet maybe.
Thank you. That's helpful, and I always like when we can simplify something that was previously complicated.
Our feelings exactly too.
Okay.
Anything else?
Are there any further questions?
No, I just had read up on that and saw a few things that I was impressed with. So I think it's a good move.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Jared.
You bet.
Okay, we'll go to the next discussion item, and that's a discussion on proposed short-term rental ordinance. And Melinda and Jared again.
Actually, Zach this time.
I was going to say, Zach, you don't look like
Yes.
Melinda.
No, I don't. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Hold on one second. It doesn't look like it's.
But welcome anyways.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Just having mild technical difficulties.
Zach's done a lot of research on this.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, thanks again for having me in front of you guys again to talk about short-term rentals. I appreciate that. I'd like to start out with just a couple introductory slides, just speaking to the item. So the address is citywide. This is going to affect, or we propose that affects all single-family and multifamily zones. We are the applicant in this instance. Technically, it's not an application yet, so it's just us presenting. So we're before you today because we've received a lot of requests from the citizenry wanting to look at short-term rentals as an allowed use. I know that after our last discussion, you had a few citizen comments speaking to the short-term rentals, and so we do know that it's something that we'd like to talk about. Let's see, and we're also, you guys were provided a copy of the ordinance kind of the draft ordinance we had. So what is the council deciding? No decision tonight. This is purely just to get your guys' input regarding this. Let's see, just verify I'm covering everything. And so what we'd like is, if you guys are comfortable with the proposed ordinance, that we move forward with a formal adoption process, which would go to the Planning Commission and then then back up to you guys at Committee of the Whole and then for a public hearing as well. So a quick recap on what we talked about last time. So a short-term rental is any rental that is less than 30 consecutive nights. So long-term, there's like your typical 6-month or 1-year lease. This is less than that. Additionally, we reviewed the results of a citizen survey that had 12 questions and about 600 responses. You remember we provided a huge long list of all those comments. So to begin, there are three types. We've decided to put short-term rentals into three big groups. There's hosted sharing, which is the owner lives and stays on property while they are renting out to a guest. There's unhosted sharing, which means the owner leaves the property during the time that it's being rented. And then there is a third, which is dedicated vacation rental, which means the owner doesn't live on the property and they use the house solely as pretty much an income generating property. So it's important to remember those three things as we go forward reviewing some of these additional regulations. That'll be very important. So next we'll go over the 5 main, most prominent regulations that we see. The first being owner occupancy, then parking, and then urgent response, a nameplate requirement, and noticing and posting requirements. So the first one, owner occupancy, this is, like I said, we're wanting to require that the owner live on property, and that we're recommending that dedicated vacation rentals not be allowed. So it would either be a hosted sharing, which would be allowed 365 nights per year, or unhosted sharing allowed up to 182 nights per year. That would be about 6 months. So let me switch up here. Another big topic we kind of wanted to address is the parking. That's a big one for a lot of people. We are proposing that in addition to the 2 off-street spaces that are required for a single-family home and 2.5 for multifamily units, that an additional half space per sleeping area is required with a minimum of 1. So, for example, I provided two examples off to the side. There's a 2-bedroom hosted sharing, so they're renting 1 room out. They would be required to have 2 off-street parking spaces plus the 0.5. But because it's just 1 room, we require that 1. So they would have to have 3 total parking spaces. The next example is a 4-bedroom unhosted. So you'd have that 2 from the normal code plus an additional 2 for, a half per bedroom. So a total of 4 off-street parking spaces. That's something that seemed really important to the community, and we want to make sure we get that parking right there. So the next 3 all share the same pretty much language and things like that. So the first one is urgent response. That's having as during the application portion, will require that the owner provide their contact information to be available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, or a representative in the case of like an unhosted, someone that was able to respond within an hour's time frame. Next, thanks to Bryant, actually, he found kind of a nameplate requirement. So this would be posted. It's not going to be more than 3 by 5 inches. Just has the name of the owner or representative with their contact information, as well as the occupant load for the building, for the dwelling, so that if there's an issue, somebody can get close to the short-term rental and then give them a call or call the city. Last would be a noticing and posting packet. So it's like a guest information packet that would include the owner or representative's contact information, emergency contact information for like local dispatch and 911, obviously. Let's see. Also, it would include locations, like a map showing the designated parking spaces, as well as where you need to place the garbage cans and the days that those are to be picked up. Next is enforcement. We worked closely with the attorney's office, making sure that we were doing something that's fair and enforceable. It's important that these are strong enough that people will comply with the regulations and not just roll a violation into their cost of doing business. So, just being able to roll that $500 into whatever and just deal with it. So each violation escalates further and further until you get to your fourth, which would be a Class B misdemeanor and a fine of $1,000. So the process to operate a short-term rental is the last slide, we're recommending in order to obtain an STR permit, we believe staff level approval would be adequate. This would lets us review the applications quicker and protects property owners that meet the required regulations. We think that that's the most fair way of doing it.
Zach?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you
Please.
go back to the slide before, I knew you were going to do
Oh,
that.
sure.
Just go,
Yeah, please.
I knew Diane and I spotted the same thing. I want to see about the
Right.
revocation.
Yeah, the third violation.
That's exactly,
Yeah, so you've got revocation and then the fourth.
Yep, the fourth
Class
one would
B.
be the Class B misdemeanor. So yeah,
But if you've already had the permit revoked, then you shouldn't be functioning.
says 2 years, right?
yeah, you shouldn't be operating for 2 years for sure. But if for some reason you are still operating, and this is per day also, so they need to.
This is the cost per day?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so at least in the violation sense.
So not a month, or not a.
Yeah, this is-
One-time fee, okay.
Yeah, so this.
Okay, so they shouldn't even be, I mean, they no longer have a permit or a license, so they shouldn't even be running the,
Yeah, that's why we're making sure that it's very strongly worded
Okay,
and very
so-
much.
okay, yeah, just, I think that's clear.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure because.
Yeah,
Put per
definitely.
day on there, so everybody's clear with that.
And yes, yeah. So each day of the operation constitutes, so it's right there on top, is a separate offense, and it is in the code as well.
I didn't catch that.
That's all right. Don't worry
Let's
about
go
it.
back
You
to the
probably
top
saw the
and read
money,
it.
the dollar signs, and
like
noticed that
that.
they're kind of high. So
I just love it. Zach goes, oh, did you guys notice how correct he was when he says, oh, it's just right at the top there for you to see it. I'm thinking, I didn't see it either.
that's all right.
You did good,
I
Zach.
totally understand.
You're awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then, yeah, so just wrapping up real quick. So we are going to require an application. So they have to specify at the time of application what type of short-term rental they're going to be. Are they going to be the hosted sharing, or are they going to be an unhosted sharing? We think that's very important. They can't do both. I don't think that's in the spirit of what we're trying to do. They need to provide a site plan which shows where the parking is going to be located. Floor plans of the designated areas if it's a hosted sharing area. This allows for us to be able to confirm that they're not going to be renting individual rooms out to individuals, so they won't have like 4 listings for 4 different bedrooms. That's very important for us as well. Last 2 things, proof of owner occupancy. They have to provide that they do live on the property 183 days out of the year. So that's 1 more than they're allowed to rent out. So that would allow for that 6 months occupancy. And then also proof of non-conflict with any HOAs. So we want to make sure that they've
That's good.
reached out to their HOAs and made sure that they don't have a conflict there, because we don't want to get in the middle of that.
That's very wise. I think you've done a good job with that.
Perfect.
A question right there.
Sure.
So how, maybe I just missed this. How do they prove that they're there? What type of proof is acceptable? What does that look like?
What? Sorry.
Sorry, of
that they
owner
live there?
occupancy.
Oh,
that
yes.
They're actually there.
So they'll have to provide their government issued ID, and then they also have to match what's on the parcel records,
Okay.
showing that they are the owner. So if it's in a trust, they need to provide to us that they are part of that trust,
Okay.
and that their government issued ID lists the address that they're requesting the short-term rental for.
So that's the document that indicates that's their address.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Yeah, and we are having them fill out an affidavit that is before a notary that says that they do live on the property 183 days a year. Yeah. So that's all the slides I really had. So what questions are there? Is there anything that?
I have a question.
Sure.
By the way, excellent job.
Thank you.
I mean, really, that was well done. And like, I think it was Melinda that said, you did your homework, and I'm telling you, you did. how about the cities around us? Now, I know that we've seen that before. Remind us. Do you guys know that off the top of your head? If you don't, we can look at it next time. But what the cities around us are doing?
A lot of them are not doing anything. They're kind of taking the approach that we've done up to this point, which is they're just not allowed. However, it's something that's going to be coming forward.
With the state, you're saying?
Yeah, the state, I believe, is going to be bringing it up probably in the next legislative session. So there's that. Some cities do allow it. Sandy does allow it. They do some crazy. You're only allowed so many per council district, and it's really hard to enforce. I took most of this, the regulations that we wrote up. A lot of it came from North Salt Lake. They had a really good, robust code that I built off of. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it can work well as long as it is, really well organized and regulated, and I think this does it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other?
Can I ask a question? Sure. So I have two. The first is in not allowing the dedicated rentals. Is that specifically an answer to feedback from the survey primarily?
Yeah,
Okay.
mostly from the survey. And it's also, I'm a strong believer in housing affordability. And I don't think we should be incentivizing people or corporations to purchase houses. I don't know if you guys are aware, but places like even as big as Marriott and Hilton are purchasing homes and renting them out as short-term rentals.
Thank you.
That's, yeah.
In fact, that's happening quite a bit.
Yeah. The other thing is, sorry, I was just thinking back to that.
Yeah.
The people that I knew that were doing that, it was, back before it was really hard to sell your house, you'd be upside down in it, which right now it's not a problem. So those that were struggling and using that because they couldn't sell their homes now can sell with quite a profit.
Yes.
So good for them. Well done holding out until.
Right.
Well done. Sorry, it was a journey in my brain. The other question is, after I just said that I really like simple code, I'm going to ask something that implies that I would like it more complicated. With looking at hosted sharing versus unhosted sharing, is there any thought in making the parking requirement different if the host is no longer present and not requiring an extra spot for them if they took their vehicle with them?
One of the reasons why we did talk about that, and one of the reasons we wanted to make sure that there was enough parking. I don't remember who it was in our conversations that we were having, brought up that I think it might have been Jared. When he goes down to San Diego, he's only allowed one spot, but there's plenty of opportunities where he could take multiple vehicles to rent out an entire home. You could have a large family that's going to be staying there. So I would rather err on the side of more parking on this for this instance than I would otherwise.
Thank you. No, that makes sense. I just wanted to look at both pieces of that. And thank you again for your research.
Yeah,
I know I have several residents who are very excited that we're moving forward in this direction. So thank you.
Great.
Yeah, just one more question. And once again, I'll echo what everybody else has said. You guys have done a great job on this. And I know I'll get emails, but I'm really getting used to that. I really like the hosted sharing. I think it creates a better atmosphere than just everybody leaving and turning the house over. So
Yeah.
But I guess the way it works is this is better than just the Marriott renting out a house.
Sure.
So I think you guys have done a great job on this.
Thank you. It's been a team effort, and the attorney's office has been helping. We've had Mark with code enforcement helping out. Everyone's been helping with the right stuff.
I
So
personally have been singularly unhelpful with this one.
Do that, Jared.
cool. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, now we're at number 3, which is reports from city representatives on interlocal boards and commissions, and we have 5 minutes each. And we'll start out with, Association of Municipal Councils. Rosalba has been not present, so she will have to do it at a later time. let's do number B, which is ULCT Legislative Policy Committee. Kat Martinez.
Thank you. So it is the off season, but also the interim season. So it's always exciting with ULCT. What I have most recently is that HB 1003 was passed. That one was a government building regulations bill. And if you remember, HB 98 was vetoed by Governor Cox, which was one, it's about building codes and permits and about what municipalities can regulate and what they can't as far as design elements. There was some issues with the bill, some regarding FEMA. And so this bill is sort of the answer to that, to fix some problems that he saw with it. And so that's one bill they've been looking at that did pass, sorry. And then another one was SB 1007, which is a public notice cleanup bill. Nothing super exciting, but it did pass, and it provides publishing in a newspaper of general circulation as an option to other methods, and it limits the number of notices in some instances. So again, nothing super exciting, but does impact posting for meetings. The interim committees have been looking at affordable housing, police, transportation, water infrastructure, homelessness, and COVID-19 recovery. They've also been talking about the rescue plan and how that money can be used. But as far as Murray goes on that, I will wait till I talk to Brenda more specifically and you know what we're going to do on a city level before speculating broadly about what they've been outlining there.
Have they provided any ideas for homeless issues, or has there been anything that's come to light that may be helpful? And
I haven't seen any bills with a lot of traction that look like they're going to do anything. I hate to say like they're not going to do anything substantial, but just nothing that I think will impact us specifically in moving those issues forward. That doesn't mean they won't, just in the different meetings following so far.
or affordable housing, no more
There's a lot of
regulation?
funding. There's a lot of funding. And that's where it ties in with the rescue plan, is how each city and county can use that rescue plan money to help with affordable housing and homelessness. And so I think it's going to come down to what the county decides to do with their funds, and then what Brenda advises us that we can do. But I think it's something we will be able to prioritize, but we're going to have to, I look to her guidance specifically with all things budget, so I wouldn't want to speak out of turn. Do you have anything for the meetings that we've been having? But my back was to for all of that, so I don't know if there was any nodding or concerned looks or anything, so I wanted to just...
I'm always nodding and have a concerned look, but
Okay, well, I couldn't see it this time, so it was a little stressful.
no, I don't have anything to add. I think there are a lot of unanswered questions that we're waiting to see
Yeah,
Yeah,
as we move forward. So.
okay. Yeah, that's...
difficult issues that,
Yeah, I just want to make sure I hadn't missed anything. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to our next budget or finance meeting, because I'm hoping that we can really get a better understanding at that point about what we can do. But that's top of my mind for sure. Yeah. Do you want me to pop on to my next one?
Sure.
Since I'm next, number C. Diversity and Inclusion Task Force, we've had our first 2 meetings, which has been really exciting. Our first one was online, and the first one is, pretty introductory, but our second one was in person, which was amazing to be in a room with humans. It was so great. We had some great conversations. We started talking about the Americans with Disabilities Act, resources that are out there, best practices that are available. And our first main topic was looking at meetings, committees, commissions, public meetings in general within the city, and accessibility with that, and looking at barriers people face and recommendations and best practices that are out there, and had some great conversations. So I look forward to more meetings with them and looking at more issues in the city. It was good.
great, awesome. Any other questions, comments? Okay.
Oh, I didn't mention, and Councilmember Hale swung by our first meeting, and it was really nice. He said hello. Made us feel like a big deal.
Oh yeah, really. I'll tell you, I knew quite a few more people than I thought I knew, and they were awesome. I knew their dads and moms is what I knew. How sad.
That's a good thing. All right, the next one is me with Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District, also known as Woofward. And what we've been discussing, well, we passed the annual budget, which also included 2 additional administrative positions, an HR/payroll specialist and an administrative manager. Also, we had passed we had approved a resolution for Woodford to become a local district. And so all the municipalities, which are part of Woodford, also gave their verbal support or did resolutions. And the only entity left to approve it is Salt Lake County, which is kind of important, but I think that's not going to be much of a problem. Hopefully that will happen soon. We also have spent quite a bit of time on recycling, contamination, clean rates, and tonnages, which is actually becoming a positive discussion. It's always been, the costs and prices are going down, and it's just costing us so much to recycle. Well, they're starting to come up. So what we've got is the recycling tonnages by municipality, and Murray it's kind of interesting. We are 197.25 total tons. So, and that is as of January, February, March, and April. So that's just those 4 months. That's how many tons of recycling that we have. And we're kind of right in the middle of the cities. So we're doing a good job, and people are recycling. The average recycling pounds per home is, each home is averaging 40 pounds of recycling each month across the district. So, kind of interesting. The contamination rates are Murray's materials like cardboard is 44.16% of the contamination rates, and the average is 45.05. So our citizens are doing pretty good. Mixed paper is a problem. Murray is 26.34% in the negative, and the average is positive 18.82. So we need to be more careful about our mixed paper.
So tell us, mixed paper. What does that involve?
This stuff and things that like bills, envelopes that have plastic on
Gotcha.
them.
So if you've got something on it,
Right.
okay.
Yeah. So that contaminates it.
Sure.
It needs to just be paper, or if they're wet, if it gets
Right.
wet, and
And I put it in.
yeah. Anyway, and so I think that's probably an education piece that maybe we need to do something more. See if we can't educate our citizens about that. Anyway, aluminum cans, we're doing well, and the others were fine, but the mixed paper is what we really need to be more aware of. Let's see, Murray City is below the average contamination in every category except for mixed paper. So, I know. And the recycling market update. This is surprisingly good news. Over the past year, there has been a constant fluctuation in material pricing, but the general trend suggests that many of the materials are leveling out or going up. Materials like paper, natural HDPE, and I'm not sure what that means, so don't ask me. And corrugated containers have seen a consistent increase in value over the past year, which is really good. So recycle, keep recycling. Materials like A-grade film and polypropylene have seen a decline in recent months, which is good. As always, markets can change unexpectedly and fluctuate from positive to negative in a couple of months. However, from the data Wolford has gathered, pricing shows that at the most, any decrease in value have been $1 or less. So we're doing better than we were, which is good. I've got to keep doing it. Future projections for recycling. Wolford has found that there are a couple of factors over the next couple of years that will influence the recycling markets. One of these factors include the Biden administration's focus on combating climate change, which SWANA, which is the Solid Waste Association of North America, believes will lead to the EPA taking a more aggressive approach to recycling and supporting the legislation that SWANA is lobbying for. Paper and corrugated packaging. The pricing will purely be dictated by the supply and demand. With the increase of online shopping and OCC, which is paper corrugated packaging, shopping and OCC packaging, as well as people returning to work and school, we will see an increase of these materials being used and, more importantly, being needed. Plastics. Plastic consumption is expected to increase between 2021 and 2028 as a lot of automotive and construction companies are utilizing plastics as substitutes for metal, like aluminum and steel. So anyway, that gives you, let's see, there's also expect to see an increased demand for polyethylene in coming years because the increase in food packaging. Polypropylene, on the other hand, has seen an all-time low due to 80% of U.S. plants being shut down from a polar storm. Scrap metals, the metal market is booming so far in 2021 with prices reaching $80 per ton. Due to a lack of scrap metal recycling through the U.S., experts are unsure if the market for these materials will increase, decrease, or stay the same. We will just have to keep our eye on the market. These are things that we consider and continue to research at Wolford. Anyway, also, we are actually doing in-person meetings, which is nice. We still have some people that call in, but mostly we're doing in-person, which is so nice. Like you said, to actually have people there is awesome. Okay, that's my Wolford report. I hope you're all awake. The next one is Chamber of Commerce, Dale.
Okay, we are meeting in person as well. There's still a few that call in, but it is fun to sit around a table with people and actually have a conversation. Let's see, we're very excited about coming events for women in business. Thursday, 6/17/21 at 11:30 to 1 at Hidden Valley Country Club. Steve Sachs will be the speaker. 2-time World Series champ, 5 times All-Star, talking about overcoming adversity. Lunch and Learn with Patty from YouthLink is going to be talking about grant writing and nonprofits. That's 6/24 at 11:30 to 1 at the Crystal Inn at 818 East Winchester. Murray Chamber has supported YouthLink in giving out over $25,000 in scholarships. Chamber continues to support the community in several ways. YouthLink Chamber, Murray Youth Chamber of Commerce gave more than $15,000 in scholarships, largely supported by K Real Estate, the Give Back Brokerage Foundation, and the Murray Chamber of Commerce. And I'll tell you, this K Real Estate is probably one of the best outfits I've come across. I don't know how they keep the lights on because they give so much money away to the community. They are great. Other events coming up would be the 4th of July Parade. There's a golf event. The Chamber would be happy to donate a foursome to the council. Annual Gala, November 15th this year, or November of this year, venue to be announced. But I would Jan and I are going to buy a foursome to the chamber golf tournament. And if the council wants to, I'd suggest you pool your money, because all the money, or the majority of the money, is going to go to the youth chamber. So I would recommend playing in the tournament, but let's not take a foursome away that they might be able to sell. The chamber's doing well. That continues to grow. It's got an excellent board, great ambassadors, and I'm just real impressed with the last 6 or 8 months what the chamber's been able to do. With that, that's the end of my report.
Awesome. Thank you. Any questions, comments for Dale?
No, I just had the opportunity to go with Dale over to the chamber, Eggs and Issues, and we got to meet with the youth chamber. And great kids. Huh. Really, really good. And that Sherry, I'll tell you, she goes and goes and goes. And then there's I can't remember, I think Lillian Peely is involved. But anyway, wonderful, wonderful organization. So.
And those kids are so fun to be around.
They really are.
We went to the graduation, Diane and I. Those kids are I mean, they energize you and give you hope for the future. They're fun. They're really fun to be around.
Thanks.
Yes. Is Kim Fong? Kim?
Yes, I am here on Zoom.
Ah, okay. Good to see you.
Hi. I'm actually in North Carolina, so nice to see you all from North Carolina.
How y'all doing?
How y'all?
Yeah, I'm another grandchild recently born, so I'm out helping with the grandchildren.
Wow.
So just wanted to give you an update on what's happening at the library. We are open for business, have been for a while. We have opened our shelves. We had planned on doing that when we reached low transmission index, which we did the very week that we opened the shelves. And people are excited to be at the library. We are busy, have lots of people coming in. We're asking people to stay for no longer than an hour. And so people are coming in using computers. People are coming in and choosing books. We have some study carrels available for people to use by reservation. That is done and just be there for an hour. We're also doing programming in the park, which has been very popular. We've had big crowds to our story times and even bigger crowds to our Wednesday afternoon programs. I think we had like 500 people to the program last week. So very popular and getting a lot of participation. We also have our summer library challenge going on, so people can sign up and record their reading and other activities, and then they can get prizes for doing that. And we have our tie-dye party coming up on June 26th. We're doing that by reservation, but that has filled up quickly, and it'll just be out on the lawn at the library. So things are going well. We're busy. People are happy to be back. We still continue to do hold pickup service for those that are uncomfortable with coming into the library or unable to, they can still come and pick up their items and just do it through the curbside service. And that's about all I've got, unless you have any questions about anything.
Any questions?
Just thanks for all you do, Kim.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad
All
you're
right.
back in service, and congratulations about the grandbaby. That's awesome.
Oh, well, thank you.
How many does that make? How many do you have now?
I now have 4.
Wow. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, enjoy.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks. All right. Now we will go to Kim Sorensen, and he will report on the Jordan River Commission.
Okay. Thank you, Council. So the Jordan River Commission continues to meet virtually. There is a desire by many members to continue that because of the number of people and the distance that some travel. So I'm one that would like to meet in person, but we'll see how that goes. But I understand there's others that have some restrictions. So we did pass our annual budget a month ago. The budget was increased. Last year it was $350,550. This year it's $355,400. So not a large increase. However, the donations from the cities did increase 5%. And the reason for that is the commission, Zions Bank, was a business member, and they did not renew this year. So there was a need to increase the donations the cities give. What that means to Murray is Murray currently, or last year, paid $2,800 as a member. This coming year, it'll increase $200 to about $3,000. So not a big increase, but an increase as well. The commission is taking a very active role in trying to replace Zions Bank as well as add additional business members to the commission. We received a report from a Meadow Wilkinson. She is an intern at the University of Utah. She spent the last year studying the Jordan River trail designs and came up with some guidelines for future development, which are very good. The guidelines include distances of restrooms, benches, length of trails, width of trails. Along with her report, she also reported on areas that don't meet the current guidelines. And you probably won't be surprised that Murray has a number of trails that don't meet the guidelines because of our width. Some of our trail widths, most of our trail widths are about 9 feet, 8 to 9 feet wide. The current guideline is 12 feet wide, and we have found that out because of the current trails and the amount of use. The wider trails are better. And then bridges, the same with bridges, the wider bridges. And Murray has several bridges that are narrower now. That doesn't mean that we should go back, or anybody's asking us to go back and widen our trails, because that would be very costly and maybe not even possible with the bridges. It's just a design guides for those cities that are going forward in developing trails. So, and then the last thing that I'll report is the Jordan River Commission is considering adding an event advisory committee. And what this committee will do is they will organize the commission's annual Get to the River Festival. They will be involved in other events that the commission and staff are already actively involved with. They will join hands with cities like us in helping us organize activities and events on the river. And I think the best thing that they do, at least from what I've seen with Murray's Trail, is the new advisory committee will coordinate and give resources to people that are using the trail for events. So, for example, several times a year we'll have 5K races and different things come through Murray on the Jordan River Trail, usually on a Saturday, and we won't be aware of these activities. So we may have people using pavilions and doing different things on our section of the trail, and then you add a 5K race with hundreds of racers, and you can imagine the chaos that brings. So this committee will be an area where someone can go and they can get all of the information about what they need to do to properly organize an event on the Jordan River Trail. Now, it's also important to understand that the Jordan River Commission doesn't have any authority over the cities and the counties' trails. They can certainly coordinate and give out information as to who an event organizer would need to contact to get the proper approvals for using the trail. So I see that as a good thing. We will be voting on that advisory committee next month, and I plan to support that that committee. The other thing is the Get to the River celebration that's usually held the month of September, which is basically a celebration along the entire Jordan River corridor that encourages people to understand and use the river and the trails and the amenities along the corridor. We'll be doing that again this September. Planning is a little bit behind because of COVID, but it is getting started. And then just to report, all of the cities and counties that have a trail section report that the numbers are still high this year. Even though COVID is somewhat gone, the trails are being used by more people, and maybe last year was a way of getting people aware of what is out there that didn't know about the trail system before. So that's my report. Any questions?
Any questions for Kim? Nope, it's just great seeing you.
Good to see you.
All right, take care. And last, but certainly not least, NeighborWorks with Melinda.
Well, thank you. I've been a member of the NeighborWorks board for about 1.5 years now, and just want to report on essentially the last 6 months of activity, which, as you all know, it's been difficult with the state of the pandemic for NeighborWorks to get out there and do the things that they normally do. But nonetheless, they've been able to approve one 5-year forgivable loan, a down payment assistance loan that was approved in January. It was for $20,000, and the leveraged loan amount was for $299,000. So in February, the Youth Works, which is NeighborWorks has kids that volunteer and work with them. They did a couple of projects with the youth Murray Children's Pantry. They stuffed 75 bags of food for families, which is the equivalent of 900 meals. They also helped paint the kitchen there at the food pantry. In February, Allison Therese, the director for the Murray branch, has also attended the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Murray Chamber of Commerce. They do make an effort to attend all of the city council meetings, and in March, she also attended the planning commission meeting. In May, they dropped off some flyers at our senior center, and then now that things are opening up a little bit more, they have a scheduled presentation in June on the 23rd, so next week, at the senior center to go over the home improvement loans and then the Paint Your Heart Out program. And there is one more home improvement loan pending for $25,000. Hopefully that one will go through. They're working on getting final bids for that. And they have another down payment assistance loan pending that is for $25,000, and the leveraged loan amount on that would be $295,000. I'm sorry, I'm going to sneeze. Or maybe not. Okay, I think I'm all right. Excuse me. So the other item out there that NeighborWorks has had, of course, has been the Trip Lane subdivision. The preliminary subdivision was approved last July, and their preliminary approval is only good for 1 year. So that will be on the agenda at is it this week? It's on Thursday. So the Planning Commission will have that on the agenda for the 17th to have that preliminary approval extended for a year. And then, of course, depending on what the council's decision as far as extending that road will be, they will take the next steps after the council makes a decision on Trip Lane. So that's my report on NeighborWorks. Any questions I could answer?
I don't think, do we have a question or
I just wanted to say how great it is to hear about those loans, because they're just amazing. So thank you for sharing just how many people are getting help with those.
Yeah, it's great news. And hopefully now that they're going to be able to be out there interacting with the public, and there'll be activities, they'll be able to get more folks that need the help to be able to get the loan programs.
Yeah, it's really a great organization, and that can help us with our housing issues and affordable housing. So it's very, very important. All right, I guess that's the last one. Thank you, Melinda. Are there any other? Okay. All right. Do we have any announcements, Jennifer?
I have no announcements.
Okay. Then I just wanted to say in July we will meet person to person, and we'll go back in the committee of the whole room, and our citizens will be welcome to come join us. So that'll be awesome. Thank you. We're adjourned.